We'll talk a little bit more baseball and a whole bunch of other stuff tonight. Mark Dondero from the Eyewitness News sports team is here tonight. We'll get his perspective on the baseball ramifications of the Paw Sox sale and their potential move and all of that. Might talk a little basketball too. Deathly blow to the URI basketball team last night. A 1-point loss to Davidson. It was, I don't know, what did Coach Hurley say? It was like someone stabbed his heart or fell out of his chest and then stomped on it, something like that. I was actually there for the press conference, but I was just too woozy from the loss. But they're still in the hunt. PC's still in the hunt. Bryant is playing tonight. They're still in the hunt as the basketball junkie in me comes out. Anyway, my state of mind in March, we're almost in March, is kind of basketball. But you know what? There's a whole bunch of other things going on, like the real world, so we probably ought to try to tackle that. Thank you for joining me. We'll have Mark come up in a little bit. So let us, like we do each and every night, or most nights anyway, let us go to the rundown. And speaking of baseball and the decision makers on this whole Paul Sox decision, Larry Lucchino spoke, and his partner, Mr. Skeffington, was on Newsmakers. We'll talk about that. So does the House Speaker on that particular matter. And speaking of the House Speaker, he's had a little tiff going on with the governor and has tried to position it as if she kind of apologized, which I'm sure she didn't really do, but that's, you know, how it goes. Another one bites the dust in the new administration for Gina Raimondo. Old guard leaving, this time the health director. This poor guy made a couple of key bad decisions, and I'll tell you what I think they were, and your state of mind is important to us. We love hearing what you have to think. Let us dig into our rundown for this Thursday evening as we near the end of the worst February we've ever had. Lucchino speaks. Yes, he is tanned. He is in sunny Florida. Here's the headline. They intend to keep things close to home, no doubt, and the press caught up with the president of the Red Sox about the Paw Sox and all that yesterday.
A newer facility with state-of-the-art training elements and new dimensions and all that could be a great thing for both Rhode Island and for the Red Sox in the training of our players.
So there's some of the logic in moving from McCoy to potentially downtown Providence, and his partner, co-chairman, I guess, co-majority leader of this new Paw Sox organization, James Skeffington, was on Newsmakers, an early taping. The Newsmakers show, of course, with Tim and Ted, that airs all weekend long on channels 12 and 64. Mr. Skeffington was talking a little bit about some of the options. I'll tell you, at WPR Radio, where you hear the Dan York Show weekdays noon to 3, and a whole bunch of other programs too, the phones have been ablaze all week with doubt and distrust and options that the Paw Sox may or may not have. He spoke to that.
We have a lot of options to where to go, and I'm not looking for other people to come in and make offers to us. I'm approaching the state saying, look, let's try to do something together without talking to anybody else. Can we do something together?
Yeah, and I think that's the right approach. There's so much doubt, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, about the trustworthiness of any kind of project discussion these days. Nick Mattiello spoke to this as well. He was on the WPRO Morning News. Now, you know who he is, right? Yeah, the fear I have, even with smart viewers like you who pay attention to things, or you wouldn't bother to watch some chubby guy on the television, most of you don't know who Nick Mattiello is. Who is he? Anybody? Anybody? Kev, who's Nick Mattiello?
Speaker of the House.
There we go. See, we have a very highly skilled and trained staff here. The Speaker of the House, arguably the most important and powerful position, even in contrast with our weak governor statutory status. Anyway, long intro. He was on with Gene Valicente on the WPO Morning News this morning, talking about having a good attitude about what could happen with this Providence Stadium and not worrying about all the past, like 38 studios.
But just because bad decisions have been made in the past, you don't hunker down and stop moving forward, stop investing in your future and talking bad about yourselves. We're going to make wise investments in the future. We're going to move our state forward. We're going to grow our economy, and we're going to improve the life of all Rhode Islanders. That's the goal, and that's what we're going to try to assess when we make our decisions regarding this deal.
Yeah, you know what? That's actually well stated. And I agree that you can't be sitting around worrying around about what happened with 38 Studios and thinking that the same thing. I've explained that to you a couple of times here and a bunch of times on the radio, so don't miss the shows. But you know, the 38 Studios thing was a stealth, corrupt, hidden scheme from the members of the General Assembly who approved $125 million in loan guarantee without having a project specified, while all the while the Speaker of the House, his buddy the tax broker, tax credit broker, and maybe a couple of others, some members of the EDC, even Governor Kacheri, all knew that this was a pipeline deal for Curt Schilling's 38 Studios debacle, you know, the multi-online gaming company that threw up, and now we owe near $100 million of principal and debt because of our guarantee. The difference in this deal and the conversation about the Paw Sox is that this Paw Sox thing is being openly debated before a nickel's worth of legislation and or funding is even talked about, whether it's in-kind real estate contribution or cash. And I don't really support any kind of upfront cash from the taxpayers, but all sorts of subsidies should be in play if these guys are going to build their own stadium. Here's the problem with Nick Mattiello's presentation. Nick Mattiello, while I think an earnest guy, hasn't done a doggone thing to purge the General Assembly of the 38 Studios controversy. He was restrictive when it came to the availability of subpoena power and hearings that had real metal. He went through the motions there. He's hidden behind alleged state police investigations into the whole thing. He cheered Speaker Fox when Speaker Fox left under duress, thanked him for his work. You know, it's all part of being inside the game at the State House. Rather than giving that place an enema and making a substantial move, symbolic and literal, to feel like this place has been cleaned up, he's just let it lurk. And so what happens is people still think that any big deal that's going to come up in the state is tied to the same kind of garbage that we went through with 38 Studios. They're not comparable, but the psychology is damaged in the state, and people don't trust you, Mr. Speaker, because you haven't done anything really to rid them of their worries. And speaking of, might as well load up here. Speaking of House Speaker Nick Mattiello, did you see this little situation? Do we have a headline on this? Yeah, they regroup after dust up. So we played the audio for you last night. I don't have it handy right now. I apologize for that. But Gina Raimondo was in Washington earlier this week at a Governors Association conference, and she was asked by a former Rhode Islander about the corruption in government and about the idea that the governor's seat is actually subservient to the House Speaker, and that, you know, she really doesn't have a lot of power. And she went on this narrative about how it's true, like, you know, there's been a culture here where I do the budget, I send it in, and then people behind closed doors chop it up, spit it out, and out comes a budget, and that it's not very transparent. I'm paraphrasing, and it's not very this and it's not very that. Well, I guess she went to visit the House Speaker because he put out a release, as I told you yesterday, very, very upset about her comments, and now he told the WPRO Morning News that everything is okay.
The governor and myself are friends. We acknowledge when we make mistakes. I think she was quite frankly inaccurate, and we move forward.
Inference, she apologized, right? She didn't make any mistakes, Mr. Speaker. She accurately portrayed that the culture of producing budget in this deliberative process is not transparent. I don't care how many television cameras you're running on hearings. I don't care how many online research pieces you can do. The truth is that if you have a couple of $100,000 in your campaign account, you're using it to buy reps dinner and make deals. One way for you to prove that there's no way of doing business is to get rid of all that money in your political campaign account and stop buying dinner at all the fancy restaurants in Providence for all the suck-ups that are in the legislature doing your bidding. Let's have, from scratch, conversations on TV. Be nice. All right, another one bites the dust here. Dr. Fine has left. Michael Fine, the health director for the state. He got accolades from Governor Raimondo, who has been, I think, very diplomatic about everyone who's leaving her fold. And she credits, I'm looking at some statements here, she credits him with the fine management of the meningitis outbreak at PC most recently. Immunization rates for adults and children were increased. And she says that he was terrific during the Ebola outbreak response. I beg to differ. While he did do some good on-the-ground community stuff, he was MIA in the key media places that he needed to be with this Ebola worry. And so I don't suggest that he was the all-star that Gina Raimondo does, but she can say all the nice things about people that are going out the door because she doesn't have to deal with them. He seems like he was a competent guy, but gee, we missed him in that chair, and we missed him in that chair, and you know, he picked his spots. Hopefully the next health director will be more communicative with everybody. Paul Labadia, canned. Yes, he's all done. This poor guy, Dan, he was corrupt, whatever. He made two major mistakes. First one, you don't sit down with Tim White. That's number one. Number two, when you do sit down with Tim White, spill your guts and just lay all of your stuff on the table, or Tim does, because he shows you the tape and says, you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this. The next day after Tim's story airs, you go make a deal to retire. He didn't. And now he's canned. Almost an empathetic figure, honestly. Your state of mind is important to us. 228-1886 is the voicemail. You can tweet at us. You can Facebook post. Here's a Facebook reaction to the visit by Troy Perry from the Preserve Golf Course last night. Informative. The $1 million tournament was exciting, I guess, to this particular viewer. They had a little interest, and now they're really interested. Troy was here last night, former Wannamoisett pro, running this Preserve Open, which many chances, in fact 18, for you to win $1 million. PreserveOpen.com, I think, is the website. And you know what? We'll have them back before the big event, June 18th. There's qualifiers in May. All right, when we come back, a guy who I know can swing a golf club, we'll talk to Mark Dondero about all this paw socks and more. Stay with us. Of course we're ready, Kev. We're always ready here.
Are we?
Yes, we is. We is. Again, the headlines that are so similar and so prevalent and so much the water cooler talk. Paw Sox want to move to Providence. You know, I've been talking about this from a political point of view and a community point of view, but I haven't checked in with the sports guys. Hey, Mark, how are you?
How's it going, Dan? It's about time. I've been beating the table to get on this show.
Oh,
so
well,
happy
there you
to be
are.
here.
Well, thanks for coming.
All right, thanks for having me.
So what's your take?
Well, what's interesting is from where I sit, this is a lot or all about money. They want to move the team to Providence because of what did Mr. Skeffington say? It'll be easier for people to get to the games, blah, blah, blah. I heard Larry Lucchino say something about the facilities, and it'll be the top-notch area where you can train. That's all great, but remember, they've had a ton of baseball success in Pawtucket. So, you know, that's fine. You want to move out of Pawtucket for the money. I get it, business. But in Pawtucket, developmentally, great. They've won 3 World Series since 2004. And how many Governor's Cups? 2? 2 in the last 3 years, something like that. So baseball-wise, they've been great. We'll see what happens with the baseball part of this when they move to, obviously Providence, you hit a home run, it would be into the water or whatever they're talking about. The skyline in the back looks great, and I get the money, but you know, this is a baseball organization first, and they want to make money too. So it's about the money, in my opinion.
Well, you know, it's important that someone say, and I've been trying to say, at least from an entertainment dollar family value point of view, that this Paw Sox operation has been top-notch the entire way. And, you know, God bless Ben and his wife Madeline, and then you got Mike Tamburo and Lou Schwackheimer and the whole team there. They've run an exemplary organization, and sometimes we forget the actual performance on the field has been pretty doggone good.
Oh,
right?
It's been great. And I think the thing, and I don't know if, obviously every person you just mentioned probably doesn't want to hear this, but I don't think in minor league sports, when you throw in the Providence Bruins, the Pawtucket Red Sox, any situation like that, winning isn't necessarily the main thing that gets people to the game. People are going to go to the game because it's a family fun atmosphere. They like being at the ballpark, the Providence Bruins. It's fun to be there. You know, if I was taking my kids there, I wouldn't care if they were in last place, first place. If they're winning, great. But it's more about the environment and the atmosphere that people are going for, and they don't care as much, in my opinion, about, you know, how the team is doing. So that's why it's a good move to go to Providence. You can make a new stadium, all these amenities, little games, you know, easier to get to, like I said. So that is, you don't want to say that's more important than winning, because the people in that building want to win. But as far as getting the butts in the seats, all the amenities and the flash and everything that's dressed up is a lot of what does that, not just the wins.
Yeah, I think the thing that validates your opinion is that season sales, especially in the warm, beautiful summer weather, and even the early fall weather, are pretty doggone good. But then they go ahead and make the playoffs, and ticket sales now are just for the playoffs, and attendance is down. Playoff attendance usually is under, at least the beginning parts of the playoffs, the regular season attendance, isn't it?
Well, that would say to me that people have
They go for the event.
They go for the event because
Yeah.
by the time playoffs roll around, they've kind of, I don't want to say they've had it with baseball or the Paw Sox, but you know, that's towards the end of the summer into the fall. Things are changing, school, football, so you know they're not.
Bruins have the same dynamic, right?
Yeah.
They got a lot of Friday nights, Saturday nights, Sunday afternoons. You know, big crowds. First round of a playoff, small crowds because of the way they can't guarantee those games and they have to resell those tickets. So it goes to your point that these are family events. Do I sense a little bit of? Are you offering a critique about this business aspect of this? Do I sense a little bit of anti-purist anger in you or something? Or
we
what?
have had the discussion. I've actually had arguments down in the sports offices before about.
Yeah, you can hear them in the parking lot around here, by the way.
Just about what's more popular. And, you know, I forget who I was talking to, but we were kind of arguing, going back and forth. There may be more people at the Providence Bruins game, aside from if you compare it to the PC basketball game, but more people, I would say, care about what place Providence basketball is in. So,
Without a doubt.
I don't want to say, I appreciate the Providence Bruins and the Paw Sox. I just think, we were just having this discussion, I just think that as far as what place the team is in, I think they care more about the college team more so than the minor league team, because again, the Paw
I think
Sox
that's true. So do you have? What I was going to is that you might. It seems like you have a little bit of disdain. Might be too much of a heavy word, but like you had a little bit of an edge to you when you were talking about this being purely a money and business decision, as if that kind of bothered you a little bit, making the move to Providence.
Well, I'm a baseball guy. I love baseball. So I don't want to say it bothers me. I understand the business part of it, but I guess it does bother me a little bit.
Why?
Because
what's bothering you about it?
whenever decisions are made just based on money, and you know, he said about the facilities, but whenever it's just based on money, it takes a little bit of the purity away from the game for me. So, you know, I'm just a little uncomfortable with decisions being made like that. And, you know, they've had a lot of success in Pawtucket. It's a great part of the tradition of the state and of the team and the organization. So I'm all for new facilities, and I think the new Yankee Stadium is great. You know, the old Yankee Stadium and all the history, the new one is great, but I'm uncomfortable.
You don't get that at the Anchor Desk at 6 and 11. When we come back, we'll see what he thinks about some of these basketball teams that we allegedly care so much about, and I think we do. Oh, man. Oh, is that yet? Oh, Ouch.
Yeah.
Did you have to
I
pull
shot
that
that.
highlight?
Oh man.
Oh my! That was the three?
That was the
there's-
winner. That was the
there's
game winner. Yeah.
And what happened there? I'm actually there, and I couldn't figure out. Okay, so TJ looked. Anyway, that kid Jack Gibbs from Davidson hit that jumper in the corner last night, and I just had this sick feeling. I said to somebody on the table, you may be aware I'm the public address announcer at the games. I said, you know, I don't feel good about this. When they missed the free throws with a minute to go, up 4 points, that something Davidson devastating was going to happen, and it obviously did. What a hard loss that was at the Ryan Center, huh?
Tough loss. It doesn't mean their season's over. They can still do some things. In fact, Joe Lenardi, the guy who does all the bracketology stuff, he still had them next 4 out. Now, the word was, had they won that game, they would have been in the first 4 out, meaning right on the bubble. They're still next 4 out, so they're still right there. Davidson, he had in the tournament now. You know, obviously, you would have liked to have had that one. Doesn't mean they're dead in the water, though.
No, here's the bittersweet pill. So they're tied for first place with VCU in the Atlantic 10 going into last night's game. They lose that heartbreaker, and then VCU loses, where you say, oh, well, at least VCU lost, but then you think to yourself, if they could have held on and win that game, they stand alone in first place. And if they could win the regular season, it'd be hard to take them off the board. Now they're going to have to win deep into the tournament, I think, the Atlantic 10 tournament.
That would say something, definitely, if they could have won the regular season. But I think
it's not over yet.
No, and
other teams could fall down.
Even if they win the regular season, I think they have to do something, URI, in the tournament to really stamp their.
Win a couple games.
They have
probably.
to. They have to get there.
What about PC?
Providence, they could lose every game from here on out and still have a chance to get in. That's how entrenched they are. Right now, I saw
How
that.
many they got left?
I forget what the number is, but they're a 7 seed right now, 6 or 7 seed. They win one more game and they're in. And you know, the funny thing about this team is, obviously we've watched them play a bunch this year. You almost get the sense that they could beat anybody, and then they could have their bad moments against anybody. Losing by 28. I know Villanova's a tough place to play, and they're a really good team, but losing by 28, that's disappointing at any stretch of the season, any point. But that is a team that looks like they are headed for March. Whereas, funny, last year they had all that success. They won the Big East tournament. We'll see what happens in a few weeks. But they didn't know if they were going. They were on the bubble the whole way, and then they finally got in. They had the exclamation point New York. But two different teams, but both last year and this year, really strong, can score, and looks like both will end up in the tournament.
What if Bryant goes on a little run? I mean, there's it's unlikely, but they could win their tournament, and because the Northeast Conference is anybody's guess.
Yeah, I'm trying. That's the alma mater for me, so I'm pulling for them, but they've had some tough losses. They're gonna have to, if they do what you just said, they're gonna have to go on the road. So that's not going to be easy for them, and they'll probably have to win the tournament. It's a great program, great school up there, but I don't know. I got to see more from them in the tournament and beyond to see if they're going to make it to the NCAAs. It'd be something for the school, though, with all the success they've had. Baseball, lacrosse, to get a basketball team in the NCAAs.
Well, your enthusiastic analysis will be tapped during the tournament. Got any predictions?
I don't want to say I'm rooting, but if Kentucky goes undefeated, that'd be pretty cool. Nobody since the Bobby Knight team in, 1970-something, went undefeated. As far as this locally, I think Providence makes it. I think URI gets in. They're going to make a run in the A-10 tournament, maybe win the A-10 tournament. I'd love to see two teams from this region get in, two teams we cover. It would be a blast. Probably the biggest thing that we would cover, even more so than the Super Bowl.
All right. Good visit. Thanks.
All right, thanks for having me.
Mark Dondero. One more thought. Got to run. Special boost for the Special Olympics on tomorrow night's show, and we'll see you on the radio at noon on WPRO. Thanks for watching.